They look around, shocked by the corpses of calamities strewn everywhere. Sensing the powerful energy, Hugo notes that it's definitely Yang Wei's energy and concludes that Li Jian must have caused this chaos. The guards sense something is wrong, noting that while they can feel Yang Wei's energy, it's too faint to indicate he's still alive. They question what could have happened. Hugo then calls for his bow, asking everyone to step back, and fires an arrow into the ground to crunch the floor. As he descends down, he calls Li Jian a scoundrel, wondering just what kind of mess he'll create next. The scene then shifts to Li Jian as he approaches a palace, remarking that the divine artifact Yang Wei stole from him is somewhere inside. Entering the building, Li Jian scowls, noting that Yang Wei flaunts his wealth with a distasteful amount of luxury. Li Jian's nose catches the scent of his divine artifact, but he's puzzled by the number of fake artifacts and gaudy clothes scattered around, all seemingly taken from his own house, shaking his head, muttering that they were used by him at some point. Finally, Li Jian locates his true artifact, a familiar toothpick, calling it his precious baby. Suddenly, alarms blare as guards rush in, shouting about a thief on the premises. Li Jian, now surrounded by countless guards, is ordered to surrender and put down the item peacefully. With a smirk, Li Jian flares up his mana, stating that he doesn't plan on surrendering. Flipping his toothpick between his fingers, he laughs and greets the guards, taunting them. With the flick of the toothpick, all the guards are scattered all around. The system notifies Li Jian that he's discovered a divine artifact, the Omnificent Mud Ball, a production-oriented divine artifact with shape-shifting abilities. It states that he's now met the conditions to unlock the skill, Creation Workshop. A notification appears, confirming that a 1.5-meter workshop has been created specifically for him, and that with his newly unlocked engraving skill, the unique traits of the Omnificent Mud Ball can be granted to his creations. Li Jian then muses about heading out but pauses as he feels a powerful energy radiating from another divine artifact of Ares nearby from a room. He sighs, thinking it would be disappointing to leave empty-handed now. He approaches the door, smiling and murmuring, "Now the fun begins." The scene shifts to Hugo, who arrives at the palace, wondering if he's too late. He shouts out for Li Jian, but the scene quickly shifts to Li Jian, who is already outside, hauling all the artifacts he managed to snatch. He thinks to himself that he's starting to feel hungry. Just then, Hugo spots him and calls out, running toward him. Li Jian notices it's Hugo and smirks, amused. He muses that he's still his friend after all, but instead of approaching him, Hugo runs straight to an injured person, misunderstanding him as Li Jian, as he scolds him for not coming to him immediately and asking why he is lying around injured right after his arrival. He then fusses over the injured person, checking that their leg is okay and ensuring they're in good health. Li Jian watches, visibly annoyed. He kicks Hugo, snapping his mind off, questioning if he can remember his friend's face. He adds that if he wants to get beaten for mistaking him for someone else. Hugo finally notices Li Jian's divine artifact, the slime, and his eyes widen. He stutters, asking if it could really be him. Li Jian raises a fist, asking if he needs a punch to straighten out his memory, calling him a blockhead. At this, Hugo shivers to his knees, hugging Li Jian, tears in his eyes as he cries out that Li Jian is really alive. Hugo asks that it's truly him, overwhelmed with emotion. Li Jian, however, punches him away, grumbling about why Hugo would hug him out of nowhere. Hugo, undeterred, realizes it really is him, calling him Jian with a mix of awe and disbelief. Li Jian is then informed by the appearance of the divine god of sages, Apollo, who descends with a sudden, radiant presence. With Hugo stunned, Li Jian ponders why Apollo would appear here. The divine god Apollo ponders as he stares toward Li Jian. Li Jian is notified that the divine god of the Sagittarius is questioning the survival of Li Jian, and the divine god of the Sagittarius is requesting to check if it is really him. Hugo questions how he can do that, for which the divine god of Apollo states something will happen if he shoots him with a flaming arrow, aiming at Li Jian. Hugo tries to stop him as Li Jian curses in anger to question if that god is aiming at someone the moment he is popping up. Hugo tries to convince him that it's okay as long as he's fine. Li Jian questions that he needs to pay him back now, making Hugo confused. Li Jian recalls Hugo of his previous message, warning that he kill him and bids him good luck. Li Jian states that when he came out of the tower, his house was sold, his will was forged, and all his divine artifacts were missing, making Hugo shiver in fear. Li Jian raises his fist, asks to let him have a good time as he punches Hugo down. Hugo, with a bump on his head, smiles to comment that it's really him. Suddenly, the security guards of the palace come out, screaming that they have found him, the person who stole the divine artifacts. Li Jian remembers that he was being chased, making Hugo pray that what on earth did he steal. Li Jian comments to inform just a few things, which Hugo can't believe that he looted Yang Wei's vault. Li Jian affirms to question if he did well. Hugo grabs him, questioning him in anger on what he did. The security question is the team leader if they'll get him right away, to which the team leader responds, saying that he is not someone in their caliber and won't stand a chance. They've called someone who matches his strength. A certain tremor can be felt as the team leader states that it's here, the household god of Aries, the beast of riches, Pishu. It is notified to Li Jian that the household god of Aries, Pishu, has appeared. He is also warned that all the riches and divine artifacts may be taken. Hugo, quite worried, states that the household god of Aries is here too and asks Li Jian if they should just throw away the things that he stole from Yang Wei and run away. Li Jian tells Hugo to just stand still, as he's a man with a plan. He calls out for Lime for a sword as Lime lights up. As Li Jian pulls out a dagger. Li Jian thinks that using it against a household god in this state would be tough, but he calls for the dagger to show him its hidden form. The dagger overflows with aura. Seeing the huge aura whirl up, Hugo questions this huge amount of power. The dagger transforms into a huge longsword for which Li Jian states that finally, it's somehow usable. It is notified that the divine artifact has evolved through the power of Ophiuchus, and due to the trait of Ophiuchus, the snake catcher, the sword has been given a critical hit attribute. The sword has gotten sharper, the attack power has increased, and the path of death is now visible. Li Jian states that he has acquired a new skill as he activates his 13th sense to clearly see the weak spots of the beast. He dashes toward Pishu, stating that he has to wreak havoc now. Hugo realizes that it was always his method to strike first, and he always managed to defeat all the challenges that were thrown at him, even if it appeared reckless. He encourages Li Jian to go get him, but Pishu crunches Li Jian down into the ground, making Hugo petrified on the spot. However, Li Jian, under the fong of Pishu, questions the thing he is screaming about. He curses the damn big pig, stating that the stench of his foot almost killed him. Pushing out his fong, Li Jian declares that it's his turn now. He slices his foot down, and Pishu screams in pain. Li Jian is notified that the beast of riches is using its abilities, and Pishu is taking all the riches in its surroundings. Li Jian says that he wouldn't have been beaten up if he had stayed still. Li Jian throws his sword, using the trait of Ophiuchus, which is activated. Whirling his aura up, Li Jian asks if he can allow him to hit him lightly just once as he activates the trait of snake catcher and slashes to launch an attack upon Pishu. The shock waves of the attack penetrate through Pishu, destroying the whole palace and the whole forest through it. Hugo is baffled by seeing this power, stating that it is the same as how Li Jian was in his prime. Li Jian is notified that he has taken down a household god, and his zodiac experience points have risen. He is asked whether he will bring Pishu, the beast of riches, into his household. Li Jian questions if he has the ability to control household gods, and that is only for the 12 divine gods. Li Jian touches Pishu to engulf and transform it into an evolved version. Li Jian is notified that the beast of riches has become a household member of Ophiuchus, and the number of current household members is 1. Hugo is stunned as it's the royal divine artifact of Aries, the golden fleece, capable of storing anything and proliferating items at a price. Pishu, the beast of riches, has decreased in size to be hugged by its master. Li Jian exclaims in excitement that since he now has the beast of riches, he can use it to store all his treasures. Li Jian plays around with it while Hugo comments that he turned a household god belonging to a divine god into his own, questioning what could have happened before his return to have him gain such an ability. Li Jian is notified that he can give a name to Pishu, who has become his household god. Hearing this, Li Jian excitedly names it Piggy Bank. The scene shifts to Hugo's house, where Li Jian calls Hugo a traitor. Hugo, furious, retorts, asking if Li Jian even understands how worried he was. Li Jian argues back, accusing Hugo of getting married, setting up a family, and living a comfortable life while he was trapped in the tower. He blurts out how he struggled to survive, trapped and trying to escape, while Hugo, who dared to call himself a friend, lived a happy life. Li Jian wonders aloud if that's how a friend is supposed to behave. Adds that Hugo couldn't even recognize him after 20 years, though he admits he looks much cleaner now. However, he questions if that's how a saint should act. Hugo, barely holding back his anger, listens as Li Jian declares that he guesses he won't be able to relax in Hugo's house. Hugo sighs and states it doesn't matter, he can stay for now, as he lives alone anyway. Li Jian, realizing he may have crossed a line, tries to console him, admitting he might have said something unnecessary. Attempting to lighten the mood, as Lee Jian teases Hugo about being divorced.